And welcome to our video on using the quadratic formula to solve equations. Now before we get onto the formula, I just want to remind you about two things that we've talked about in this unit so far. The first one is expanded form, and the second one is factorized form. So you need to know these before you can use your quadratic formula. Expanded form looks something like this. Completely expanded with no brackets there at all. And factorized form looks something like this with the brackets included. Actually, I'll make that a minus a. Factorized form, expanded form. This one's fully expanded. And you can go between the two by factorizing or by expanding these brackets to put it back into expanded form. When we're asked to solve a quadratic equation, which we did in the last video, you've already found that you can't use inverse operations like we do for our linear equations. So what we need to do is first factorize the equation and then use the null factor law to solve it. And solving it means find what x equals. Now the quadratic formula uses expanded form, this one up here, to skip straight to the solution. So you don't have to factorize first and use the null factor law, you can just skip straight to what x equals. So this formula is useful to you if you are trying to solve an equation. It is not really useful if you're trying to factorize the equation. Mainly used for solving. It can be used for factorizing, but mainly using for solving. In order to use this, the equation must be in expanded form and it must be equal to 0. So I'll just highlight that. Must be in expanded form and must be equal to 0 before you can use the quadratic formula. It's the exact same rules that we have for the null factor law. Must be equal to 0 before you can use the null factor law. Okay, what does the equation look like? Here we go. We're trying to find what x equals, so it starts with x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, Lily agrees with that, over 2a. In fact, this is one of my dog Lily's favourite maths equations. Over 2a is what I got to. Where not y equals 0 is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. This is where the a's, the b's and the c's come in. They come from this equation here, the expanded form. While we're here, I just want to point out the plus or minus, which just means it will get you the two solutions that you usually get when you solve a quadratic equation. And the plus or minus is just a fast way of writing, so you might write 2 plus or minus 3 is the same as 2 plus 3 or 2 take away 3. So we put these two equations all together in one and we just write 2 plus or minus 3. So that's all this plus or minus means. It means two equations in one, so we don't have to write this whole thing out twice with the only thing changed, the plus and the minus. And I've put a note down here. The plus or minus means two solutions, and what I just wrote up there. Example number 1. Solve the following quadratic equation. The one we're going to try and solve first is y equals 2x squared minus 10x plus 8. The steps we're going to use to solve this are, first of all, to write out what a, b and c equals. So I'll just put that over here. A is the number in front of the x squared, B is the number in front of the x, and C is the number on the end. Second step, write out the quadratic formula. Just going to check how much room I've got. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Third step is to substitute your values here into the formula. So negative b is negative 10 plus or minus square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times 2 times 8. Put that all under the square root sign. Big fraction line, vinculum is the name of the fraction line, over 2 times a, which is 2. Third step, simplify. So let's go. Negative 10 makes a positive 10. Negative 10 squared, negative times a negative is a positive, which is 100. Minus negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 8 is negative 64. Over 4. Going on to the next page. 10 plus or minus 100 minus 64 is 36 over 4. Square root of 36 is 6. And now we can break it up into our two solutions. 10 plus 6 divided by 4, or 10 minus 6 divided by 4. Let's keep simplifying. 10 plus 6 is 16 on 4, or 4 on 4, which equals 4 or 1. So there's our two solutions, 4 or 1. That's x equals, remember right at the top we had x equals, that big long formula. Sometimes when we try to use a quadratic formula, as I've put below here, you might end up with a number that you can't square root. In this example, we had square root of 36, which is easy to square root. But sometimes you might get a number that isn't easy to square root. And those types of numbers are called surds. If you're in advanced maths, you'll learn how to simplify surds, but otherwise you just need to leave them as they are written because you can't simplify them any further. So we'll do an example now that has a surd in it. Example number 2. 0 equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 6, and we're trying to solve it using the quadratic formula. First step is to write out a, b and c. A here is a 2, b is a 3, and c is a negative 6. Make sure the negative stays with the number. Second step is to write out the quadratic formula. B squared minus 4ac over 2a. Third step is to substitute the values in. Negative 3 plus or minus square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 6 over 2a. Negative 3 plus or minus 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 6 is positive 48 over, I shouldn't have put 2a in the last example. Need to substitute the value for a, which is 2. 2 times 2, 4. negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 57 over 4. And here's one of those surds I was talking about. Square root of 57, or 57 is not a square number, so we can't easily square root it into a whole number. So what we do is we just leave it like this. And these are our two solutions. You can write your solution simply like this and stop here, or you could write it out with the two solutions. X equals negative 3 plus the square root of 57 on 4, or negative 3 minus the square root of 57 on 4. Both methods, either leaving your answer like this or leaving your answer like this, both are fully acceptable. Thanks for watching the video today.